No, I do not need to wear a cowboy hat for this one. I like my hat. It's really cool. No, it's not the same one. This one's brown, it's bigger, and it works a lot better. Hello everyone, Jerryactric here with Jerryactric Midnight Movie Review, and tonight was The Magnificent Seven. You've probably been seeing ads for this movie. It's been kind of heavily promoted. It is a remake, of course, of the original 1960 Magnificent Seven, of course, starring Yul Brynner. But actually, that was a remake. It was actually based on a movie called Seven Samurai. And the basic premise of the movie is this. After the Civil War, just a little short time afterwards, there is this town called Rose Creek, which has a mine there that this guy named Bartholomew Buge, I think his name is, played by Peter Sarsgaard, is basically mining, and he wants all the land, and he just wants to take it. To this effect, he actually kills and terrorizes this group of people. One of his victims' family members, a widow, Emma, played by Haley Bennett, decides that, you know what, I'm going to go out and find some people to fight this guy because he's just entirely evil. And so she starts getting hired guns. The first one, of course, is Sam, played by the always remarkable Denzel Washington, who has kind of a connection to Bartholomew, which you find out at the end of the movie. So basically the first half of the movie is just Sam and Emma getting this group together. Of course, you have Josh Faraday, played by a very funny Chris Pratt. Ethan Hawke, which was really cool because the director of this, Antoine Fuqua, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, did Training Day. So it was kind of nice to see Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke back together again. And also Ethan Hawke has the greatest name in this whole thing, Goodnight Robicheau, also known as the Angel of Death. Vincent D'Onofrio is in it, playing this mountain man who is just a very strange character. You kind of get the feeling that this guy hasn't talked to people in a very long time, being out in the woods. We have Byung-Hun Lee as Billy Rocks, a very badass gunfighter and knife thrower. Manuel Garcia Ruffalo as Vasquez, I think his name was. I don't even think we got his first name. But he's like this outlaw. He's very funny. And then Martin Sensmeyer, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, as a Comanche warrior by the name of Red Harvest. So you have these misfits who come together to protect the town. Now, there is money involved. That's, why some of them are doing it. But it's also a sense of, it's kind of, I know this sounds cheesy, but it's kind of because it's right. I like this movie. This movie was very, very action-packed, very funny. Character development. You kind of feel like you wish the movie was a little bit longer so you could see kind of the other members of the Magnificent Seven's story and what happened, but you kind of get pieces here and there by what they say or how they act in certain situations. So, yeah, a good movie, good action, good message. As I said, Peter Sarsgaard is just a wonderful villain, just one of those guys you just hate completely. I mean, he's just, you just want to slap him every time he appears on screen. There was a little controversy about this movie because Magnificent Seven, as I said back in 1960 with Yul Brynner, is considered something of a classic. But the connection also, and of course it being a remake of Seven Samurai, it's the idea of, can people who maybe are not doing this for a moral good, can they come together and fight for something more than themselves? And it's interesting because the idea of Seven Samurai and the Magnificent Seven has played out in other things. A Bug's Life, actually, was sort of a kid-friendly version of Seven Samurai, if you didn't know that. But yeah, I like this movie. It's very violent. There's little to no sex in it, but it is violent. There is language, but kind of appropriate. One of the things I wanted to talk about was Denzel Washington. Of course, it's very interesting because you see an African American man playing a cowboy right after the Civil War, and so it puts a lot more weight on him. And I think one of the cool things is that when he goes to the town and he's preparing to fight this evil guy, is that they don't see him as that. There's never a word about what is a black guy. Why should we take orders from him? They see him as just an equal because that's what he is, and it does put a little bit more weight to the role, because this is a guy who probably is looked down on whenever he goes into a town or something just because of the color of his skin. As I said, Chris Pratt, very funny guy, playing a very funny guy. Literally everything out of his mouth is almost a one-liner, and yeah, it was a very good movie. It's as I said, very violent. Nothing shies away. It's very realistic Western, nothing like Bonanza from back in the day. This is very straight, more good, bad, and the ugly than anything else. But yeah, check it out. A lot of good actors, a lot of good scenes, a lot of good story. It's really good. The one thing I did want to say about this is at the end, which I'm not going to spoil anything. As I said, this is always spoiler free. His character just makes a very bad decision, almost to the point where people in the audience were almost laughing, because it's like, why would you do this? And that was the only, because prior to that, I was very into it. I was very into the story, the characters, and that happened, and I was kind of like, this, I don't know why you made this choice, screenwriter. So, other than that, recommend it. Go see it. As I said, rated R, so, keep the kids at home. But yeah, if you like Westerns, this is a very good Western. It's very realistic, which, and trust me, there's not a lot of Westerns out there, so see them while you can in the big theaters. So, this is Jerryactric for Jerryactric Midnight Movie Review, reminding you, if you're not going to the movies, then what are you doing with your life? So you saw the original one then? Well, that's cool. Yul Brynner, right? Oh yeah, King and I, and then suddenly he's a cowboy. It was amazing. What do you mean, did Denzel Washington turn out to be a robot too? Yul Brynner wasn't a robot in The Magnificent. Gary, are you talking about Westworld? It's very hard. When the Blair Witch Project came out, found footage, it had actually been around. A lot of people think that the Blair Witch Project kind of started it. But, there were films that were purported to be real things. Cannibal Massacre, I believe, was one.